Right now, India is walking this incredible diplomatic tightrope. You've got a decades-old friendship on one side, and on the other, some serious pressure from the world's biggest superpower. And, watching this whole thing unfold is its biggest strategic rival. This is the story of India's really high-stakes balancing act.
So that's the big question, right? With these historical alliances pulling one way and a bunch of new global realities pulling the other, can India actually navigate this path without taking a fall? Let's break down exactly how we got to this point.
So what kicked all of this off? Well, the immediate pressure point for New Delhi, it all comes down to a single, unconfirmed statement that basically put its entire foreign policy under a global microscope, like overnight.
And this was it. This one claim, it doesn't even matter if it was true or not. It put India in a completely impossible position. All of a sudden, New Delhi was on the back foot, having to explain its relationship with Russia, a longtime friend, while also trying to manage its supercritical partnership with the United States.
Now, to really get why this is such a massive deal, we've got to rewind the clock a bit. You see, the roots of this India-Russia relationship, they run deep, and they're all built on one crucial foundation: defense.
This bond was really forged back in the 1970s. In '71, Moscow was a key ally, basically acting as a counterweight to the US and supporting India during its war with Pakistan. And even after the Soviet Union fell, this defense partnership was the absolute backbone of their ties. Russia kept supplying not just new equipment, but also all the essential spare parts needed to keep India's huge arsenal of older Soviet-era gear running.
And you have to understand, this dependency was huge. I mean, at its peak, we're talking about over 80% of India's entire military being equipped with Soviet-made hardware. Now, that number has gone down as India tries to buy from other countries, but Russia's role in just maintaining all that older equipment, it's still absolutely critical.
But lately, a totally different product has started to redefine the relationship. It's shifted things from being purely strategic to being massively economic. And it all kicked off with the war in Ukraine.
Okay, so after the invasion in February 2022, everything changed. Western sanctions basically cut Moscow off from its usual energy customers in Europe. So Russia needed new buyers, and fast. And for India, which was trying to protect its 1.4 billion people from skyrocketing energy prices, well, discounted Russian oil was an opportunity it just couldn't ignore.
And the change was, well, it was just staggering. Before the war, Russian oil was a tiny slice of India's energy imports, like only 2%. Afterwards, that number exploded to over 32%. It was a complete and total transformation of their economic relationship, and it happened almost overnight.
This massive surge in oil buying pushed the trade between the two countries to a record high of almost $69 billion. And this wasn't some slow, gradual change. This was a massive economic earthquake that happened in a super short period of time.
But here's the catch, and it's a big one. This trade relationship was incredibly one-sided. Of that huge $69 billion number, almost $64 billion of it was just India buying Russian oil. Indian exports going the other way, just a tiny fraction of that. This created a whole new kind of dependency, this time an economic one.
Of course, this booming energy trade didn't exactly fly under the radar in Washington. And while the U.S. seemed to tolerate it at first, well, that patient eventually ran out, and the administration decided it was time to act.
And the response? It was direct and it was expensive. A punishing 25% tariff that specifically targeted India for its Russian oil purchases. The message couldn't have been clearer. And since September of last year, India has started to, quietly scale back its imports. So how does India explain this? Well, officially, the language is very, very careful, very diplomatic. The government frames all its decisions in terms of national interest and energy security, and they really avoid any direct mention of U.S. pressure. The official story is just that they're diversifying their energy sources based on what's best for the country.
And on the other side, Moscow's public reaction has been just as measured. The Kremlin spokesperson basically downplayed the whole thing, saying they see nothing new here. This really suggests that, at least publicly, they understand the immense pressure India is facing from Washington.
But here's the thing. This isn't just a story about Russia and the U.S. There is a third, massive player that casts a shadow over every single one of these decisions: China. And this right here is the most critical piece of the entire puzzle.
Just think about it. This is India's ultimate strategic nightmare. Its number one rival, China, has this strong, no-limits partnership with its most important defense supplier, Russia. So for India, upsetting Moscow isn't just a diplomatic problem. It risks pushing Russia even closer to China, which could create this unified strategic threat right on its borders.
And look, this isn't some abstract threat we're talking about. For nearly 6 years now, India has kept around 50,000 troops stationed on its border with China. With a security situation that tense and that real, cutting deep-rooted defense ties with Russia is a risk that New Delhi simply can't afford to take.
And so, that's where India finds itself, at a crossroads. It's being pulled between the huge economic gravity of the West and its unbreakable security ties with Russia, all while staring down a rising China. Every single choice comes with a cost. In this high-stakes game of 21st century geopolitics, the only question left is, which price is India willing to pay?